Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker this morning is Mr. Phillip Anderson. He's a graduate of both Purdue University's College of Agriculture and the Indiana Agricultural Leadership Program. Phil and his wife Beth, a communications professional, have 2 daughters and live in Carmel, Indiana. Phil's experience with nonprofit and community development organizations spans 23 plus years. As founder and chief rethinker of Rethink Consulting Group, Phil Anderson specializes in 4 areas: food and agriculture, community development, servant leadership, and cultural tourism. At Rethink, it's all about doing outside the box. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, Phillip Anderson.
Good morning. If they've got me turned on, I asked for a request last evening. I said, I love a dais, but not for me. I'm not a fan of podiums, so I'm going to work out here, and I'll work back and forth across. I want to be out here with you, because this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where a lot of really important things happen. It's great to be here. The people here at Arabian Horse Association have been incredibly gracious and hospitable in my time. It came in yesterday. Obviously, we'll all be able to blow out tomorrow. But I think it's important, and you see this first slide up there, and we've got a little bit of time together, but I think it's important that we understand that in our world we think of common or common sense. And I will tell you, we get caught. And this only struck me a few years ago. And I realized that oftentimes I have friends on Facebook, as an example, and when they get frustrated, they'll say, well, people know that it's just common sense. And the reality is, at that point that we say it's common sense, please stop. Because at that point, that means there's another question that needs to be asked. Because it's not common sense. In my time here, I grew up in agriculture my entire life. I can tell you, horses were not part of that makeup. We had few cows, chickens. My father loved. The rest of us did not. And then we were grain farmers in the Midwest. And so I'm sitting at dinner last night listening to racing and breeding and all the various dimensions of this, and realized for you in the room, what may seem common sense to somebody else in agriculture means nothing. So when you hear common sense, think about stopping and asking the next question, which leads me to, see here, get this thing out here. All right. Which is what we want to spend a little time talking about here, which is uncommon sense. Are we going to get it there? Let's try this again. One more time. There we go. There we go. Uncommon sense in a chaotic world. That's where we are. We need to be thinking about our world differently, because don't worry, the people outside of this room are. I will tell you, and not just people you say, oh, some people somewhere, not them, but your folks. Your folks. You got people in their 20s, 30s who've grown up in this industry, and I will tell you, they're thinking differently about your industry. And they will take it to a different place. You know why? Because you did the same thing. Shared this phrase last night. I love the phrase. It's everything we do now was new once. Right? But we're like, well, we've always done it that way. Frankly, you've not always done it that way. It was new once. So don't be afraid to accept something new. So when we think about that, I came across this quote. I'm always one for phrases and quotes. And it says, Arabians, why? And for the most part, this is a Kristen Oakhurst wrote this article, saw it online. It was an equestrian. And she said, for the most part, you either own an Arabian or you hate Arabians. And people say, well, that's not very nice. Let me couch that for you, because it says far more about Arabians than you can ever imagine. And that's because what separates Company X, Organization X, Group X, from the rest of the people is unconventional thinking about its dream. What this business or this organization wants to be, how its priorities are set, and how it organizes to serve. It has a radically different self-image and philosophy. So, okay, that sounds nice, a lot of words, but let me tell you what that looks like in the marketplace. There's a gentleman named Simon Sinek, did a TED Talk. And it's a very well-watched TED Talk based on his book called Start With Why. This is what he said. And so you think about it, because it was very interesting to hear Craig talk about why are you here? But in it, he goes through and talks about an organization's why and all that. And he says, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. It's not that you have Arabians. It's why you have Arabians. And the why you have Arabians is the only reason you're in the room. Because if you look around, there are no Arabians here this morning. Are there? When you have a board meeting, how many Arabians show up? Hopefully not many. People. Yeah, they'll be welcome. There you go. But the people show up. Organizations are made of people. It's all about the people. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. They rally to that. And everybody in this room shares a why around Arabians. But it's not the difference. It's not the horse. It's the people. It's the people. And the people keep you coming back because guess what? The Arabians are home. So the people keep you coming back. And what you do simply proves that you believe. So, okay, let's look in the marketplace and figure out who else shares a strong why. Apple. Apple does. I don't care whether you like Apple or you don't like Apple, but I will tell you this. When people buy phones, they either say, I bought an iPhone, or I didn't buy an iPhone. You don't say, oh, I bought an LG today. They don't do that. And Samsung makes a great phone, but nobody says, oh, I went out today, I stood in line, bought a Samsung. First of all, Samsung make great phones. Second of all, nobody stands in line for a Samsung. But for some weird reason, people stand in line for Apple. Now, I've been an Apple guy since the late 80s. So I've worked on everything from a screen this big to screens this big to everything you can carry. I will tell you that I've never stood in line. It's not who I am. That's not my why. But people do it. So Apple's the standard by which everything is set in that arena. Who else? Southwest. Southwest Airlines, you either like them or you don't. And believe me, people aren't too shy about telling you, oh, I don't like flying Southwest. It's like being on a cattle call. I don't know. I walked around Atlanta changing gates 3 times yesterday on Delta. I felt like a cow. So just go to the next gate, please. But people identify, I flew Southwest. Oh, I don't like Southwest. Really? So they use it. It has become the standard bearer for a why. And a third one in the agricultural arena is John Deere. John Deere, right? You're either red or you're green. Do not mix these up. And we can usually tell because you got the hat on. All right? Now, my brother has a red tractor and everything else is green, so he has done something to screw up the kind of the wobble in the universe here. But people do, and so they set themselves by that. Oh, well, I didn't buy that expensive green stuff, you'll hear the red people say. I haven't seen a bargain price on the red stuff, just so you're checking. So what does that say about Arabians? What does it say about Arabians? You're the standard bearer. You're the one by which they say, oh, I have Arabians, or I hate Arabians. Right? It's important because it means you have a responsibility within who you are, and not just who you are as a horse person, but who you are collectively as this organization. Now, I'm going to touch on a few of these things, but it's about staying relevant because every organization, and that was my background for 23 years running trade associations in agriculture, corn, beef, veal, and rural development. It's about staying relevant. And it's in a different place than we've ever been before. So a lot of these things, changing demographics, generation, governance, and leadership, we'll touch on those. But it begins with this grouping, leadership and followership. So I need, this is the interactive part. I need a show of hands. How many of you in the room consider yourselves to be followers? Okay. I have a very timid smattering of those hands. How many of you in the room consider yourselves to be leaders? Keep those hands up for a minute. And here's the problem. Oh, now you say, oh, I put my hand down now. Yeah. No, you are already guilty, all right? If you cannot follow, you don't get to lead. You don't always get to be the leader. In fact, you don't always even want to be the leader, right? I sat through part of your delegate session yesterday. There was a moment at which I could tell she was thinking, I really don't want to be up here. It was a great moment, I will tell you. I loved it. But you think about it, we have to be both follower and leader. Because we don't always get to lead, nor do we want to. And you have to be able to be a good follower. And you know who picks the leaders? The followers. Now, this is the difference. We won't go into it in great length here. You know who picks the managers? The hierarchy. Truly. But the subordinates very rarely go, well, let's vote for our manager. But followers choose the leader. So leaders have to serve the followers. In fact, you think of any organizational chart, and if you want to lead from the top, flip the chart completely upside down, and you must serve from the bottom. Okay? So who are you matters, but just know, deep down, we are both. And there are times when we need everyone to step up and lead, but not all at the same time. But we need people to step up and lead. We are faced, every organization out here, I heard is someone in the room 90 years old? Yeah, okay, hands over there. All right. Have I got anybody in the room who's under 25? Oh, look at that group. Yeah, we're sitting back here together. It's kind of our protective little group. Keep us shielded from those people, those older people. Here's what's different about this number than we've ever dealt with before. Today we have 5 generations, very large generation groupings that are alive today and actively engaged. We've never had that. I heard this number a few years ago, and I've heard it bounced around a little bit, but it's somewhere in this. 70% of all the people who have ever lived to be 70 years old are alive today. Think about that. In history, 70% of all the people who have ever lived to be 70 years old are alive today. You know what that means? That means you as an association are trying to figure out, how do we stay relevant to someone who is in this generation, the World War II Depression generation, who have very different values, see the world, their defining moments were very different than this baby boomer group. So back up, this would be before 46. You were born before 46, the silent generation. How many of those we got in here? Okay, all right. What about baby boomers from 46 to 64? Yeah. This is classic. Okay, I will just tell you right now. Now, here's what's interesting about it is behind them are the Gen Xers. Any Gen Xers in the room? Yeah, they're proud. They're not only proud, but they wish we would all get out of their way. And reality, a few years ago, they were thinking, before 2008 and the recession hit, they're thinking, hey, we're in good shape. They're all going to retire. They're all counting their money. And then 2008 hit, and they're like, oh, wow, we counted our money, and it's not there. So we're going to work a little longer. And then they had their eye on that position in the organization, and you know what happened? They retired the person and hired them back as a consultant. What is that about? That was the position. I've been focusing on that for the last 5 years. And you did that to me? So the boomers are not well liked by the Xers. Because if you listen to the news, the baby boomers are retiring, the baby boomers this, the baby boomers that. And the Xers are going, just get that out of the way and let us get on with this. So you have that group, okay? Now we have this group we're still trying to figure out called millennials. Now, real quick, show of hands again. Baby boomers, hands up. Guess who are the parents of the millennials? You are. I am. Quit complaining about them. They're your kids. I mean, we all act like, oh my gosh, what about these millennials? And you know what we do? We talk about them while they're in the room. as if they're not there. Can you believe those baby boomers did this? And they're thinking, they're right there. What are we doing? Oh, I didn't see you. And then they'll continue to talk about them now that they know that they're there. Millennials are not so radically different. Millennials were raised with a different defining moment. Every generation was. And millennials were raised with technology. So they're native. Hand them a device. It doesn't matter what. They're like, well, of course. Thing I did a long time ago after I got a cell phone, weirded my kids out. They knew I could never change the dial tone or the ringtone, and I changed it. I don't know if I could change it back, but I changed it. And then one of them borrowed the phone, and it rang. And they're like, "What is that?" It was their phone. Like, how did you do that? Don't know. How many of you in here have a Facebook account? You got to see the young people in the back are going, I don't even want to admit I have a Facebook account. Because they don't have Facebook accounts as much. You know why? They've gone to Instagram. You know why? Because we can't figure it out. And they do Snapchat, which I still have yet to figure out any rationale for, but it's a booming business. Okay, so beyond the millennials, who are now in the workforce, I have two of those kids, are something called Gen Z or the texters. This is a perfect picture of what they are like. Walking through the airport with them is a real adventure. You're dodging because they're not looking. And if you email them, you have to text them and tell them I sent them an email. Otherwise, they'll never see it. Now, here's the important part. Guess who is a part of your organization? All of them. Remember when those of us thought, ooh, the fax machine got here. Okay, well, that's gone. So now you're trying to figure out, as an organization, as a leadership team, running state associations, running your groups, running your skill groups, all those things, you're trying to figure out, how do we appeal to all of those people? And it's very, very different. Very different. And here's the thing. You can't choose. Well, we'll email them. Okay, that'll cut out a bunch. That'll cut out people who live on ranches out in the middle of godforsaken nowhere. And that's not a slight. That's just, we have people in this business that live in remote places. We have young people who don't know what to do other than GPS, which is great until there's no service, and then they're out in the middle of nowhere going, can you read a map? Map? What's a map? I'm waiting for Siri to tell me, turn left, turn left. Okay? All of these are a part of who we are. And we're going to have to wade through the muck and mire of how do you talk to them? More importantly, we love this. We love talking about young people. We just don't like listening to them. But I'm going to tell you, as an association person, you better listen. And you better listen well. And keep asking questions because they will change the face of your organization. They have to. Because it has to become theirs. And so hold on. Tradition is great until it gets in the way. And you can usually answer the question of tradition, which is, why do we do this? And if somebody can't give you a really good answer, it's, well, because we've always done it. That is not an answer. That is a scapegoat. Don't go there. Don't go there. So tomorrow's board, is it going to be about the years of experience, or is it going to be about the ideas that they have? Is it going to be, I'm here now because millennials are not going to stick around to go, I'll work here 17 years on the committee and then I might be able to be chairman. They're like, I'm here in the next 3 to 4 years and I'm going on to do something else. You want me? I'm here now. Let's go. Saddle up. They are ready. And they don't want to be treated like, well, when you get to be older, they've lived through childhood already and now they feel, I'm 20, I'm 21, I'm an adult. Treat me like one. Don't make me earn it. It's not about hierarchy. They're really not fans of hierarchy. Now, you know what? In our boomer world, we worry about hierarchy. They don't. They'd like to throw it away. Sitting through a delegate session yesterday, I've sat through many of those, hundreds of those, and I can tell you, I was sitting there thinking, I can see some of them rolling their eyes going, are you serious? They don't, because they're about why are we here? Not what are we doing? Communications. Goldilocks and the Three Bears is the moniker I use. That's because for some it's going to be too much, for some not enough, and for some it's going to be just right. and you can't figure it out. Each of you will decide what's just right. So we have to give it all to you. Almost spew all this stuff out. But it's a challenge because now we've got to figure out how to have an Instagram account and how to have a Snapchat account and how to put it out on Facebook. And then somebody says, well, what about Twitter? Yeah, I know. And all the rest of these things. And somebody says, email it. I'll say, well, I don't do any of that. Can you just send it to me by snail mail? Yeah, we can. It's not wrong. It's just different. And we've got a challenge with it. So it comes down to tomorrow's board has to have a shared purpose. Why are we here? And remember, horses don't show up at the meetings. You do. Horses are the common context, but you are the community of people that have to decide how you're going to be together. And then I will challenge you to be a servant leader with the hyphen in the middle. Servant leader. It doesn't mean one part servant, one part leader. It means servant, leader, one together. Serve. Serve first, and lead later. Change in progress beyond leadership. We are now entering a leisure era. We've gone through agriculture, we've gone through manufacturing, we've gone through services and industrial, we've gone through the information age. We are at leisure area, and people look at that and go, no, we're not. I talked to a guy yesterday in the airport. He comes to Indianapolis every year for Gen Con. You know what Gen Con is? People dress up in unusual... Where was I? Yeah. Right? He comes to Gen Con. Gen Con is like, think of Star Wars on steroids. And people dress up in everything you can imagine. Everything, all the gaming things. He said, I don't dress up. I just come because I'm a gamer. 60,000 of them come in on their dime for Gen Con. It's an amazing event. All right? You don't think there's leisure out here? Think about this. Farmers markets. Local food. Agritourism. Anybody gone to a corn maze? Do you realize what you've done? Corn maze is getting lost in a cornfield. In a design that you can't see while you're in it. In fact, when you go, they've carved some design in it. They only show it from an airplane, but nobody gives airplane rides. You are just lost in a cornfield. I can do this. If you want to pay me $15, come out. I'll take you out about 35 rows. Hand your cell phone, call us when you're done. We'll come get you. Okay? Growing up, we had celebrity foodies of Julia Child and the Galloping Gourmets, and now there are so many celebrity foodies you can't even imagine. Right? Cookbooks galore. Farm experiences, people want to go out. Used to be just dude ranching. Now people want to come out and, can I come out and bail? Okay. It was romantic when I was a child. Well, get out there about 3 days and it will stop being romantic. I talked to a woman. She went out to do a Western roundup in Montana. She spent $3,000 to pay the rancher to do his work. Now, this wasn't some city gal. This was a gal who had a farm back in Indiana. What would make you do this? And we have wineries going up all over, and we go out and we wine taste. And we go from winery to winery to winery, and they shuttle us around and take care of us. And we have trails. We have pie trails. Pie trails. Now, I'm a big fan of pie. Do I look like I'm a fan of pie? I'm a fan of pie. But going and saying, let's go on a pie trail and we'll just go and eat pie all day long. I got that coming up Thursday. That's Thanksgiving. Okay? So we have that. But you think about it. How are we going to do this Arabian horse thing? Because what we traditionally thought of, well, this is what we do with our organization. We are in a whole different era. We're in a whole different era, and people are looking at what you do differently than they did before. What do horses do? We talked about this. Horses will stand in the mud if there's a dry spot next to it, right? And you know what happens? People who know nothing about horses will drive by and go, oh, those poor horses. I can't believe those people are treating them so badly. We're driving by thinking, move 30 feet, please. Cows, you know what cows do in the wind? They face the wind. Our natural inclination would be put your butt to the wind, right? There's more padding there, more blah. But they don't. They face the wind. Now explain that to city people. It's windy, the cows are turning around to put their face into it. That makes no sense. You ever seen a Jersey cow? They always look like they're starving. Because they're bony. People think they're starving. They call people. The cows are starving. Someone should do something. This is who we're dealing with. And they're not afraid to speak up, because you know where they'll speak up? I'll tweet that picture. You're not on their Twitter feed. You don't see it. Okay? So you think about that. That's all going on. Now, working or playing, here's a couple things. Is this person working or playing? 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 Showed this. One guy said, oh, he's working. I know that face. That's my face when I play solitaire. I was like, great. Thanks for that. We don't know. We don't know. Which means you can work and play anywhere. Anytime. If you're connected, you can do work. You can do work. So it all comes together and you think, how are we going to lead and work with these people? The change is coming. In a mobile world, we have this. I have a formatting thing. We have Arabian whore. But in the mobile world, people want, there's a free application, there's a limited application, and now there's premium application without any ads. And if you think to the young group, you tell them how you're going to deliver something, and they say, hold it, you mean I can't use my phone? What is that about? And they throw up their hands. And they won't do it. Now, that is not an indictment. That just means we got to get our head together and think, how do we make this mobile? Everything about it's mobile. So if your registrations, if everything aren't mobile, you can't register for a conference, not mobile, you're not going to appeal to them. You have to think about it. Now, last one, counterpoint and competition. We have generations removed from the farm. We've talked a little bit about that. We have an audience that is so ignorant of science and what we deal with that there was a study done. This is honest, it was done at Oklahoma State. They asked consumers, should products be labeled if they contain DNA? Honest to God. 80% said, oh, I think it should be labeled. Well, at that point, 100% of them would be labeled, and what are you going to do with it? But they're fearful of things they don't know. So think about that. So when you got real stuff, and they're thinking, oh, DNA, oh, they'd be scared of that stuff. Ooh, I'm full of DNA too? Yuck. Right? That's what they got. So we have a rise of pseudoscience. We have food bloggers. We have anti-activists. All those people looking at what you do, what we do, what you do to get horses ready for a show, and they're thinking, oh, that's just not right. Based on what? I don't know. It's just not right. You're thinking, that's the way you do it. Well, that's just not right. How do you deal with that? And then animal welfare. Is it their view of animal welfare, or is it your view of animal welfare? And you can sit at your table and say, well, that's what we agree. That's not who they're talking to. They're not talking to the people at your table. They're talking to people outside who are these same ones going, it contains DNA. Let's mark it. Okay? Just know that's what you're facing. And then we've got this competition for resources. Anywhere you want to go, you're competing for resources. You got water issues in California, and they look out there and they see how horses, if there's green grass, they're like, oh, that's a problem. Well, horses not on green grass, that's a problem. Okay? If you look at horse lots, what happens to the grass? Horses pull them up if they're overgrazed, right? So they look at the horse lot next to it, it's all dirt. They look at the cow lot next to it and go, oh, look, green grass. What is the problem here? Well, the problem is physiology of cows and horses. It's not about some diabolical plot to starve out the horses. So all of that's there. And we have to compete for all these resources. And then we're competing for leisure time. You want to get young people involved? Where does it fit? Where does it fit? And there are not enough of us who have, well, we've always had horses to keep the entire industry alive and growing. It's going to take more. How do you do that? How do you compete against soccer, which they start now? Oh, look. Bobby took 2 steps. Get him signed up for a soccer league next spring. Right? And they haul them around. And where are the horses? Nearby? Or you get, because I got to figure out how to work it in with one going to dance, one going to soccer, and then I got to figure out, I got to go out to the farm? That's not going to work. So they don't. We're competing for leisure time with these people. Finally, through all of this, and this is the most important thing about what's in this room, remember this. It's not who we are to each other, which is, I'm from Indiana, so I'm in region whatever. It's not what it's about. It's not who we are to each other. It's who we are for each other that counts. That's what makes community. That's what makes relevant and thriving organizations. When we put aside the titles, we all know who we are. Put aside the titles. Go to dinner with somebody. Ask questions. Know their story. Share their story. Share your hopes and dreams. It's who we are for each other. And the description here is this picture of cleaning up after a tornado. There are people who would go in and say, yes, but I'm a manager, so I'm here to help manage. They're like, no, the guy over there, John over there, he's in charge. Grab a wheelbarrow. Yes, but I'm a manager. Not today, you're not. Grab a wheelbarrow, because we're about who we are for each other. Who we are for each other changes the game. It's been a pleasure to be with you. I will be here throughout the rest of the day. But hang on. Appreciate that, but hang on. We have really cool stuff ahead. This association is not, it's at a turning point, as all organizations are. But I will ask you to reach out to that group in the back, ask them what they want, what they aspire to do, where they want to go, and help them go there. It will change the face of who you are, and it will. But they need your stories and your passion and your why to share with them. So thank you for the chance to be here with all of you today and be a part of this, and good sailing.
Phillip, I got about 10 organizations you need to come to talk to. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that was excellent, don't you? Please, one more round of applause for Phillip Anderson. It does impact everything we do.